All right, what's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we're back with another fight breakdown. Now, Naoya Inoue is going to be fighting MJ Akhmadaliev this weekend. It's going to be on Sunday, September 14th. Okay, this is going to be the day, actually the morning after Crawford and Canelo fight. The problem is we don't have a broadcaster. Normally, Top Rank ESPN broadcasts the fight for Inoue. No one picked up the fight. As of now, I haven't seen anything of any network picking up this fight. So if there is news as far as the broadcaster, I will probably post it in the community section of my channel and update you guys with the news. Maybe I'll post it on Instagram, Twitter, whatever you guys need, whatever you guys follow me on, you'll see on there. But as far as right now, there is no broadcaster. Now, I did go on Google and I found a website called Kayo Sports, Kayo, and it's a pay-per-view, okay, and they're supposed to be broadcasting a fight for $49.95. I've never heard of this site. I don't know how legitimate it is. I don't know. At this point, if you find a way to stream this fight, let me know. But if I can stream the fight and I find a way to stream the fight, I will actually cover the fight live. All right. I really want to. But yeah, this is supposed to be like at 4 a.m. Eastern time. Okay. If you are over here on the East Coast. All right. Now, this fight is a really, really good fight. I know everything is about Canelo and Crawford at this time, but I wanted to get this breakdown out of the way before continuing doing content on Canelo and Crawford, because this is a very, very good fight. I actually think this is one of the better matchups in Inoue's career. MJ is a guy that I've been following for some time, okay, a fighter from Uzbekistan. You can arguably say that he's probably the best fighter from that country, pound for pound at this point. You got Israel Madrimov out there. You have Bekdamir. He's out there. It's not too many fighters. I mean, this country is right next to Kazakhstan, where Triple G is from. And he's been around, is good amateurs, over 300 fights. He's only been a pro since 2018. He was unified champion at one point and at 122. He's a career, for the most part, 122. He did start up at featherweight and moved his way down to 122, picking up 2 titles in a very limited amount of time as a pro. Okay. He lost to Marlon Tapales, who went on to lose to Naoya Inoue in a undisputed fight up at 122. And since then, he's been working his way to try to get a title shot with Inoue. Okay. He's still been winning fights and he's still been a top guy at the division. Okay. There's been some back and forth from whether or not he's been ducked by Inoue. There were some times in it was where he was ordered. I know he had an injury. I did do a video probably early this year where I kind of went through some of the time periods of when Inoue could have fought him or couldn't have fought him. It's just a whole thing. I know MJ's promoter, Eddie Hearn, has gone out there and said that Inoue has been ducking him for some time, but he's also his promoter. He's pretty much selling the fight. He's saying what he's supposed to say to get this fight going. Honestly, I actually wanted this fight because outside of Stephen Fulton at 122, I think this was the only other fight that I was really, really asking for outside of Marlon Tapales. I mean, when Tapales beat MJ, I wanted that fight with Inoue because I thought Marlon won the fight. I know it was a split decision. I know at the time people say that was close. It could have gone either way. I've watched that fight again recently. I watched that fight when it happened. And I personally think Marlon Tapales won. It was a close competitive fight. But I can't give MJ any more than 5 rounds in that fight. I thought Marlon was just the better boxer in there. You know what I mean? I think he did the better work. I think he landed the cleaner shots. He just outboxed him. And by the way, because I might as well just go there. Being that Marlon Tapales is you know, the fighter and the opponent in common, and they fought. Marlon fought both of these guys one after the other. There's no comparison in performances, and that doesn't mean everything, but you have to take that into account. Watching Inoue destroy Marlon to Palace, it was a very good fight. Marlon did win a couple of those rounds in those middle rounds, but the success that Marlon had against MJ was very clear to me. Whereas Inoue, he had some moments, he landed some good counters, but it wasn't as nearly as competitive as the MJ fight was. All right. So, but overall, when we talk about these two fighters, I know Inoue is a 4 division champion. He is a 2 division undisputed champion, and he's going to be defending all 4 titles here in this fight. And until we get Junto Nakatani fight, I think this is the most desired fight at the division. I think the Junto fight is actually it's actually a dream fight for me at this point. It's actually that big of a fight. I think Junto is the most capable fighter against Naoya Inoue in the sport right now. That's at least that's 122 and down. I think he's the most capable, and I think he has the best chance of being Inoue from anywhere between 122 and down. All right. And I can't wait to see that fight. We'll probably be seeing that sometime early next year. Okay. Now let's talk about the fight and these fighters. Now, I'm going to be talking a lot more about MJ simply because I know people are a lot less familiar with him. Again, he was a very good amateur. He's one of these guys. He's 30 years old. Very physically strong fighter. Okay. He's strong and he's durable and he can punch. All right. He can box very well. He is a southpaw. Okay. Very elusive fighter, good body puncher, good volume. You know what I mean? I think he is probably out of the fighters that Inoue fought at this point at 122. I would say that he's probably the most balanced. Okay. Because he can box, but he can fight, he can brawl, if it gets to be a firefight between these two, I think that's his strongest chance of being Inoue. I think the slower the pace the fight is, I think there's more of a chance that Inoue wins because from the outside, I think that's where Inoue does his best work. You know what I mean? Setting up that right hand with that jab is the way to go for Inoue, whereas Akhmadaliev is he's balanced. I mean, he has a lot of tools in there. He has some good angles. But I think Inoue overall has more ability. I just think he is more explosive, just a little bit more explosive. But he is naturally the smaller guy because MJ has fought at heavier weights and worked his way down. And again, he's very, very strong and durable. Up to this point, has he fought a puncher like Inoue? No, he has not. He has lost to Marlon Tapales. I want to say he has not fought the best fighters, the better fighters between the two. I think Inoue has fought the better fighters between the two. I would say that MJ, the best 3 fighters that he's fought up to this point are probably Ronnie Rios, Daniel Roman, which was a very close fight. That was a split decision fight. And I think that's the go-to fight stylistically. I don't think Daniel Roman is at the level of Inoue, but stylistically, I would see there's some similarities there. And plus Ronnie Rios, because they're both righty fighters and stuff. But both of those fights are not, those 3 fights there, which are the best opponents for MJ, in my opinion, are the fights that are the most telling fights. And when Inoue stepped up in different periods in his career, like when he fought Stephen Fulton, when he fought, Nonito Donaire in both fights, when he fought Marlon Tapales and some of the other guys that he's fought, I felt like Inoue even over-exceeded expectations or he just did well. You know what I mean? And for MJ, I can't quite say the same, because he lost to Marlon. The Daniel Roman fight was pretty damn close. And even the Ronnie Rios fight, even though he stopped him at the end of that fight, I felt like it was it was it was very competitive, more competitive than it should have been. I mean, he did got the stoppage, but Rios normally has always lost or his step up fights, and he's always most of the part getting stopped. So even though MJ stopped him, it took some time. So even though he's strong, physically strong, and he is a puncher. All right, he's a boxer puncher for real, and he is the bigger man. Inoue has been dropped recently twice. I don't feel like he's done better in those step up fights like the way Inoue has. Excuse me. So even though I give MJ more of a chance than in winning this fight, before going into the fight, compared to like a Louis Neri or some of the other fighters that he's for. He fought Cardenas recently. Inoue. I'm talking about Inoue now. Cardenas, good fighter, but I was unfamiliar with him before that fight. And then when the fight happened, I was like, holy shit, this guy is super dangerous. In fact, I still think that this is probably the second best fight that I've seen this year, in 2025. But there's fighters there like Ye Jun Kim who didn't belong in there, right, at all. TJ Doheny, good fighter, definitely, a decent fight, but not someone that I expected to give Inoue any real issues, But you have to watch these fights because I would say you have to watch the Doheny fight because he's a southpaw. You got to watch the Neri fight because he's a southpaw. You got to watch a Marlon Tapales fight because he's a southpaw. And even though these guys don't fight exactly like Akhmadaliev, those are the fights that I went to for film study. You know what I mean? And I think MJ does a little bit of all of what those guys can do. And going into his ability, if the concern that I have here for Inoue, all right, who's going to be defending his titles here, is there's things in each of these fighters that I've seen do that I could see, MJ giving some issues. You know what I mean? MJ has a very deceiving left hand. He's like, the way he throws his backhand, his left hand, is the same way that Inoue throws it. Inoue does it better with the righty because Inoue is going to be using that. He's going to be shooting his jab. He's going to be level changing. He's going to be feinting, and he's going to be shooting a jab to the body and throwing the right hand behind it, that straight right hand. But Inoue is going to be feinting low and throwing high. He's going to be looping some of those right hands high. When you think he's throwing it low, he might shoot 3 of them in a row to the body. And then out of nowhere, he'll feint low and it come up and wing that right hand up top. And that's how a lot of these guys get caught. And that's what the chess match, because this fight is going to start out being a chess match, in my opinion. And Inoue is going to be winning that chess match. I think Inoue is a guy that tends to be careless in his earliest rounds, and that's how he got caught with Louis Neri and that backhand left hook. And the same thing with Cardenas. Cardenas did it a little differently because I believe that it was like he was in a square position. He switched sides and then he looped the left hand, the left hook, and dropped Inoue early in that fight. I think the second round. So I think Inoue, when he's in a pocket, I don't think he is a top tier guy in a pocket. I think when there's some space and some distance and he's able to use his legs and get in and out, I think that's where his strength is. I think Inoue, when he's more in a pocket and he stays there, or his back is against the ropes, I think that's where MJ would be a little bit. I don't want to say he's going to be dominant, but I think I would lean more towards MJ in those situations where it's more close proximity. You know what I mean? Because of his physical strength, his durability, his body punching, and also I think Inoue has a very bladed stance when he's close up. I think he should be fighting in a more square position, and I think his balance is not so good when he's on the inside. That's one thing that I've noticed as early as this morning when I was watching him fight. I think I was watching a little bit of the Tapales fight, right? So Marlon Tapales, what made that fight with MJ very close was that Marlon was beating him, outboxing him from the outside, right? But MJ started to get more physical in the second half of the fight. And once he started to make it a firefight, that's what gave him the advantage because he was in the positions to land these bigger shots. I think seeing Marlon physically, having those couple rounds where he had some success against Inoue, a lot of it was because he wasn't boxing Inoue from the outside. It was more on the inside. And being that Marlon was having so much success and not being a bigger puncher, like not being a puncher that Neri and Cardenas and even MJ, it kind of made me feel like, when it comes to that, this is where MJ has the strength over Inoue. This is where the danger comes in because MJ is a physically strong fighter. Also, going back to his strengths and using that backhand, that left hand, he does the same thing. He'll use his jab. He'll throw the straight left and he'll loop the straight left to the body. He'll hook to the body, but then he'll fake it and loop it up top. And Inoue, who doesn't have the best head movement, or sometimes he goes straight back, he can catch him or around the guard of Inoue. You know what I mean? And if Inoue tends to sleep and he has his, they're close range and his right hand is down and he's mixing it up with MJ, and MJ throws that backhand left hook, which is one of his best punches. We already seen Inoue get dropped by two guys with that punch. If MJ does it, it's going to be different. And MJ, in my opinion, once he swarms you, that's when he does his best work. And this is what makes the fight very dangerous for Inoue, because I can see where Inoue is very dominant on the outside, but Inoue is also one of those guys that he's sharp defensively. He's good, but he's not great defensively. And he's also a fighter. When I watched the Cardenas fight, and I was a nail biter of the fight, you guys was here live, it was a nail biting fight, right? Because Cardenas, even when he was missing and even when Inoue was blocking, you would hear every time he landed, and MJ's one of those guys too. And the thing is, Inoue, he said it himself, like he welcomes the fight. So when you are aggressive towards him, he begins to be aggressive back. He doesn't back off. If you go to war with him, he's going to go to war back. That's his style. And in this case, if it ends up being a phone booth type of fight, it could be very, very dangerous for Inoue. Inoue, to me, overall, way better talent. Again, he has the power too. I mean, when we're talking power, I'm talking all this MJ power, but I mean, at the end of the day, Inoue is the bigger puncher still. But with that being said, though, Inoue has had a lot. He has had to work a lot harder in his recent fights to get the knockdown. And I'm talking about at 122, at the knockout. I mean, he's not knocking guys out like the way he was back in 118 in lower divisions, all right? Where it was just a straight boom. Was it the Payano fight where he knocked him out with one punch? Was that the Payano fight? Let me go back. Yeah. And Payano's a good fighter. But one straight right hand, boom, this guy was done. Those 1-2 round knockout, that's not happening no more up at 122 because he's a smaller guy. So it's taking some time to get the stoppage. He has to work a little harder to get the stoppage. You know what I mean? And I think here, the longer the fight goes, the longer there's going to be opportunities for MJ to have opportunities to rally and land a good shot. And being that we've seen Inoue get dropped recently twice, he's always going to be a danger for Inoue as long as the fight goes. All right. So this is a very good fight. My picks, well, Inoue should win the fight. I don't know if he's gonna stop MJ. I know Inoue's 30 wins, 27 knockouts. He's always almost knocking everybody out, right? The last person he has not knocked out um was Donaire in the first fight. All right. Yeah, I mean, even moving up to 122 again, he's been stopping everyone, but he's had to work harder to get those stoppages, okay? Not just like one punch anymore, you know what I mean? But his power is still destructive, and he's been knocking guys out since 2019. I think that we got to be very careful in picking the knockout in this fight because MJ has been shown to be a very durable fighter as a pro. No, he has not fought Inoue, but we got to be careful because he's shown to be pretty durable. I think Inoue should win the fight, but when it comes to betting, this is the only bet that I've made so far for the weekend's fights. You know, the other ones, the other fights are still this undecided with Lester Martinez and Canelo and Crawford and all these other fights. I still haven't put any money down yet, but for this, I have because I do not think that Inoue should be as much of a favorite as he is right now on a money line. MJ gets plus 620. Or at least that's what a couple of days ago when I put my money up. You get plus 620 on MJ. I think if this was a plus 200 or plus 250, I probably would not even put any money in it. You know what I mean? But Inoue is the favorite. Inoue is the most likely to win, but I had to jump on a plus 620. If we get an upset here, and I think, Inoue being knocked down recently, still the smaller guy here. I think MJ landing a big shot, and possibly hurting Inoue and finishing him off. I think that there's a chance. And I think plus 620 getting 6 times of my money, I think it's definitely well worth it. And if you guys are gonna put money on it, I think it's well worth the bet. But logically, as far as a prediction, I have Inoue winning this one too. Again, I think he can just win on points or a late stoppage. I just think he's just more skilled than Akhmadaliev. But if he is to stop Akhmadaliev, I'm expecting to be over 9, not earlier than 9 rounds. 9 to 12, somewhere around that. All right. So that's my prediction. Again, no broadcaster at this time, but if there's any information, I will let you guys know. I'm still got content coming out for Canelo Crawford. I'm going to try my best to squeeze in a prediction video for Lester Martinez against Christian Mbili. But I had to get this one out of the way. All right. Big fight. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please subscribe to the channel. If you love the content, hit the thumbs up. Do me that favor real quick before you guys get out of here. Hit the thumbs up. Share the video if you can. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.